I'm just recording on OBS, so can you read what I just sent to you in Discord?
Whether we wanted it or not, we've stepped into a war with the Cabal on Mars. So let's get to taking out the command one by one. Velas to work. I don't even know how to say that. From what I can, from what I can gather, he commands the siege dancers for an Imperial land tank just outside of Rubicon. He's well protected, but with the right team, we can punch through those defenses, take these beasts out, and break their grip on Freehold.
Thanks for reading that, dude, and thanks for agreeing to do the podcast with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Heck yeah! Thanks for having me, dude.
It's super fun. We'll get straight into it. I know you're probably planning on streaming today, so first question that I've been asking everybody is, how did you start content creation? Just in general, it doesn't have to be Destiny related. It could be any kind of gaming. Like, how did you kind of get started doing that?
Well, content creation as far as like streaming wise, years ago, back in my Call of Duty days, I used to stream on my Xbox or PS4, depending on the year, and I would just do it just to casually hang out with some friends or whatever. And then I stopped and I kind of just gamed after that. Um, but I guess more recently, I started doing it because of World's First and like challenges and then things like that within Destiny. Um, I never even considered streaming once I started playing Destiny 2. But then Spire of Stars, me and a group of friends, Ferdog and Fami and Frank and a couple guys that you might recognize, we were all in a team and we're like, oh, we should stream this because we feel like we have a pretty good chance at, competing for the world's first. And then from there, I was like, okay, well, solo Argos, you should probably stream that too. And then kind of just evolved from there.
And I know for myself, I kind of knew who you were because I had played with some of the people that you just mentioned, but I know a lot of attention got to you because around that time is whenever you did join Redeem, when you were invited to join Redeem.
Right.
Um, and I remember specifically Flush saying in a lot of people's chat, just seeing him going around chat, he's like, somebody's going to solo Argos before Forsaken, somebody's going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And him mentioning you several times. And I know that's soloing Argos is it's kind of a pivotal moment for people in Destiny 2. Not only you, I mean, obviously you are very well known for that, but there was no other boss that was soloable at that time, and especially whenever you did it, we didn't have well.
Yep.
I think we had just gotten the first iteration of Whisper, so pre any nerfs. Um,
Slightly actually.
you
So
like just it, like it just you were trying it before Whisper came out.
yes. So I tried it just before the Darcy buff. If you remember the buff where basically it procs the I don't remember the exact buff, but it procs increased precision damage essentially while you're aiming in. Before that came out, I was testing like the strats, just the solo break and ad clear and things like that,
Hmm.
survivability. And then once that came out with Darcy, I was like, okay, well, let's see the damage because we all know that Darcy is a bake weapon, right?
Yeah.
And people like to meme on it because it's the Darcy, but it's a very solid weapon for doing very fast damage very quickly. But my very initial strat required Darcy unloading and then 2 craniums for damage as well.
Hmm.
So it's just very, very, very unreliable,
So you
but
did
possible.
like you were like doing like even more juggling than like what people have to do now. I mean, obviously Anarchy top
Right.
is kind of the strat now, and it's just you just get the craniums that you need, and that's it. Get striking
Right.
hand. Like you can get 2 craniums with that. So you were bringing over more before that.
So the problem was the ads are based off of how many craniums are planted on that plate.
Hmm.
So if DPS is on arc plate and I plant 3 craniums on arc, there's going to be a crap ton of minotaurs. There's going to be a lot of minotaurs, and having no well, that's an issue. So shooting all my ammo, taking care of the bombers, and then also trying to juggle 2 craniums for damage was just very, very unreliable. Um, yes, it's technically possible, but it's one of those, it's impossibly possible, right?
Yeah, like how far were you getting on damage with that strat? Like just an estimate. I know this was like a
I think
year
my
ago
best
now.
was like 2.5 mil, and you have to do 3.4.
So that's just per
So
damage phase was 2.5 mil is your best.
right. So the only thing I could have done is I could have tried to do double shield breaks, which I didn't really mess around with back then. I don't remember the reason. It was probably just survivability because leaving harpies up with no well of radiance is not a good idea. Very bad idea.
Yeah.
But then Whisper came out, and of course, never playing D1, I had no idea what Whisper was, and I realized how good it was. And then the Whisper Catalyst came out, and I was like, okay, we have it was box breathing originally on Whisper of the
Yeah.
Worm, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so damage is technically possible now because you have infinite ammo and you could just sit there and click the head. So it's technically possible now. And the damage was there. It was just very, very tight initially. Um, and then what actually made it realistically possible, or what made it actually happen, is the week before Forsaken. That's when Whisper of the Worm switched to whispered breathing instead of box breathing.
Yeah.
And that's when box breathing got the nerf where it only counts with the first bullet.
Mhm.
But what happened was the whispered breathing actually increased the precision damage. And then once Forsaken dropped, they reduced the precision damage of the snipers in general, which technically nerfed it.
Mhm.
So when whispered breathing came out that 1 week prior to Forsaken, the damage was, I don't want to say it was easy, but it was much more reliable and much more consistent.
Yeah, compared to what you were doing, it seemed easy.
Right, right. Compared to what I was doing and what other people were doing, it was like, okay, this is going to happen now. It wasn't this better happen. Oh, we don't know if we're gonna get it because there's not enough time. It was a matter of who is going to get it first. And I'm pretty sure that day on Tuesday, well, Wednesday morning at like 2:30 a.m. Central Time is when I got the kill,
Nice.
if I recall. So it was literally that day that that happened that there was a kill, and then an hour and a half after I got it, Aotera got a second kill.
And I remember
So there's
I've
somebody
seen the
right
clip
behind.
of you getting it several times, and it's the most like it's not like over the top reaction of like "fuck
Mhm.
yeah, I killed him, fuck yeah." It's
Yep.
like pog, like it,
Uh,
but you could still like from your voice. I mean, you don't use a cam consistently.
right.
I know you have one, but you don't use one. But like
Right.
the relief in your voice was just like you could tell it was there. So like I know you streamed most of it. How much like time did you spend either playing and not streaming, or how much time did you spend just like number crunching, making spreadsheets? Because I like to see what
Oh
people
God.
kind of do, like not involved in the game. Because a lot of people look at streaming and content creation. There's a lot that you don't see. So just with like Argos, just completing that solo, like how much do you think that you did?
Oh
Not
God.
even maybe just to start off, like not even playing the game.
Oh God. A lot. It got to a point where, like, when I was at work, right? When I'm at work, I do an office job, so I have a lot of free time and stuff.
Hmm.
I started making like a spreadsheet to compare all of the weapons, to compare which buffs I could stack, and basically see what my max output damage is. And it got to a point where I would actually get it down to the second. So I knew that there was 25-second damage window, and I would get it down. How long does it take to shoot all 23 bullets of Darcy or whatever it was? Or how many shots can I get off in 25 seconds with Whisper of the Worm? And you can get 30 shots off in that 25 seconds after proccing Whispered Breathing. However, you have to factor in other things like when the bombers come, are you going to shoot the bombers, or are you going to super, or what are you going to do? So basically, I would just put everything down on a piece of paper and I would map everything out as far as what realistically was going to happen. So I could get 30 shots off, but reliably I would only get 25 to 27. Completely depends on, uh, you know, there's a lot of factors, but 25 to 27 is what I realistically would shoot. Um, so all of that, plus just, I don't know, just theory crafting, watching back my VODs and seeing like, okay, maybe I can take a different path, or maybe if I do this instead of that, I would say that was easily 50 to 100 hours.
Wow.
And altogether, I did about 100 hours of attempts before I got the solo clear. So I bet you from like the very first thought to the completion, actual attempts, streaming, things like that, and everything on the side, I would bet that I'd probably put close to 200 hours into it.
And then not to mention the numerous different challenges you've thrown on top of yourself with the hunters only, I believe the Titan only,
Yeah.
the various two-mans that you've done. Like, Argos has gotten you quite a bit of content. Like,
Oh, easily altogether over 500 hours. That's without a doubt over 500 hours for all challenges, for all everything. I mean, my very first technical challenge I ever did was 6 man, one shield break kill Argos. That
mm-hmm.
was before we got the Emperor's Blaze mods. That was back in the tether spam, Goldie spam.
Yeah.
That was way back in the day where if you got a one shield break kill, like you're popping off like 30 golden guns,
Yeah,
you're
I
popping
remember
off like a
watching
lot
those
of stuff.
videos. It's just like
Hmm.
ridiculous amount of golden guns going off and just standing next to each other. And it's like if you somebody doesn't get one precision shot, you're not getting enough orbs to do it. 'Cause
Exactly.
I know the
Uh,
world's fastest eater was with that strap for a while.
yeah,
That was before the, like you said, the Emperor's Blaze mods and everything else, and
right.
before well, of all the Argos challenges that you've done, let's just say aside from the first solo, what would you say is probably the most fun challenge that you've done? Just
Uh,
Argos.
Most fun and difficult, actually, Hunter, as much as I hate saying stuff like that because it was so extremely difficult and it gave me a lot of original Warlock solo vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that was going to be something that very few people would do. That was actually probably the most fun I've had in a challenge because you had to be on top of everything. Super frustrating as well. Um, but probably that one. More recently, I did a 2 man triple shield break with Glad. That was
Yeah.
a couple months ago. I think it was right before Opulence, maybe a little bit before. I don't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but a triple shield break in one phase with 2 people is pretty difficult. You have to get good RNG and you have to be super fast.
Yeah. I
So
know
we got
you
three
always
shield
like
breaks and
zooming. I remember that from
yeah.
the Insurrection Prime, the first two
Hmm.
mans that you guys are doing as well.
Yep, those are always a blast. I love the original ones typically, like the original theory crafting of challenges. Because you can tweak it and you can like I'm very analytical, so I like to look at things on, what did I do? What should I have done differently? If I do this, how will something react? And that's one of my favorite parts about doing the challenges. And then getting the completion is really awesome as well. Um, Aside from that, doing like 2 man prestige Argos, which was good old tether and golden gun spam,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, so many different variations of challenges. Most of them were quite a bit easier though. So I wasn't really as satisfied just because of how minimal effort for the most part needed to be put into it.
So how much? And I know, like with Redeem, you've only been you're on team one with Redeem right now.
Yep.
You've only been with Redeem for a year as far as raid races go. So that's
Hmm.
I guess that's probably excluding Leviathan and Eater
Right.
and Spire. Technically, you're with the guys that would be in Redeem, but I don't believe you guys are in Redeem yet. Correct?
Correct. So right after Warmind, which was the Spire
Mm-hmm.
expansion or season, that is when we all started to one by one kind of join into Redeem.
Yeah.
So it was roughly June, July is when everything went down, when everybody started to join. Frank was the first of us, and then myself, Fami, and Ferdog were all in like a week time span.
So I
We all
know
joined.
maybe you haven't had a lot of experience with like, because I know you do a lot with the spreadsheets, and I've heard you talk a lot about them. Obviously, you put 500 hours in the game, and maybe just analyzing the game. Like, how much? This is going to be coming up soon because in 2 weeks we have a new raid, Garden of Salvation, coming out.
Yeah.
How much are you analytical of those things like during a raid race, like day one raid? Like, how much are you trying number crunch? Are you trying it all? Are you just trying to wing it? Like, are you looking at
Most of that stuff
numbers?
is more so winging it.
Okay.
because the only time I really ever go analytical is when it's like a very tight challenge, when I like have the time to actually dissect the information and like pick it apart.
Yeah.
Usually day ones and things like that are more so what is the mechanic, um, what are things that you have to take note of. It's not so much like damage and numbers and things like that. But when it comes mechanic wise, in that scenario, yeah, I'm definitely more analytical in the sense that if we see a crystal spawn and we shoot it and then also we see it's glowing, right? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, that's definitely doing something different. What did we do to make it glow? And then trying to find that type of thing, or like the Crown of Sorrow Galron boss room, it's clearly put in three different sections, right? And just seeing that is like, okay, well, there's six people, why not just put two in each section?
Hmm.
Um, and for whatever reason, we just decided to keep dropping wells directly in the middle of the arena and just spam wells and use basically abuse the healing of Well of Radiance because it's insane.
Do you think
Um,
something like, because I know like Frank is and Flesh is and really the whole team is, with your day one, they're very analytical. They do break things down a ton, which a lot of people don't see if they're not in their YouTube and even outside their YouTube, like seeing the things they make and spreadsheets they make. Do you think possibly with Garden of Salvation, with all the changes that we're having, I know we get changes every year, but we are getting a huge one with the no auto reloading. Um, Hopefully
nope.
they nerf Teal Dahamkar grass, but
Hopefully.
do you think that maybe we could get DPS checked and that could come into play, like actually figuring out what weapon you have to have at what light to actually complete it, like not just complete it in a one phase or a one break, because we don't really know, we don't know what anything is yet.
Right.
So obviously we're just speaking hypothetically. Do you think that there's like there may be a place for that come future raids? Maybe this one being the first.
Day one, there's usually a decent amount of DPS checks, of course, because you're so under leveled.
Hmm.
But usually DPS isn't the issue, it's staying alive.
Yeah.
After day one, once contest is lifted and once we reach power level, I really don't think so, because we just have so many things in the game right now that are just designed to bake. They really are. If you just look
Yeah.
at all the different weapons and all the different buffs that we have, even though we're not going to be able to stack them anymore, you're still going to be able to destroy all of these bosses. So they've already one phase. They already went back and one phase Riven with no auto reloading. You
Hmm.
can do it fairly easily. Um, so I just think we have too strong of weapons right now to where that would be an issue. I would very much so like to see that though. I would like to be able to go into a raid a month after day one completion and still um barely get the one phase or have to do a two phase.
Yeah.
I feel like these raids, they have a lot of great mechanics, and there's a lot of mechanics that happen after the first phase that we never see.
Yeah.
And Riven is a very good example of that. If you look at the entire Riven fight, there is tons of mechanics and there's tons of different things in that encounter that make it very unique compared to everything else. But you never see it because you can three-man one floor, you
Yeah.
can three-man two floor with two different teams, and if anything, you can kill it on the third floor without using any of the quote cheese tactics. Um, so, when people say, "Oh, well, that's a cheese, that's a cheese." Well, I can grab two buddies, I can go on the first floor, drop a well, and sit there with, a boop and rocket launchers or a boop with grenade launchers, and we can three-man one floor it. I mean, that's all we're doing is we're just making it easier by bringing three other guardians over. I would love to see that they add mechanics that prevent you from doing that. So, like a hypothetical I gave was every time you shoot an eye, you get a buff that increases the damage done by Riven, right? So if you shoot two eyes on the first floor, that gives you like a 20% damage increase. You shoot two more on the second floor, that gives you 40% then. And then you shoot six up top, that means you do 100% of damage. And then you do the fall down the pimple stage, and
Yeah.
you're doing 100% damage. So every pimple you pop, you're doing a very good amount of damage.
Yeah.
Um, so I think something like that would be a lot cooler. But with the weapons we have, we don't even get to experience that because they're just too strong. They really are. When you combine a debuff with Swarm of the Raven, with Anarchy Top, with all of these other weapons, even though we have the auto loading nerf, I still don't think it's going to be an issue when it comes to damage check.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious.
I hope
That
so.
would be really interesting because I know that like the Ribbon fight just in itself and all of Destiny raids, and I know that you've been watching the Destiny ones raids today. Um, but like the Ribbon fight itself, if done, I don't even know with full mechanics. I'm not going to give it anything, any kind of other title. With full mechanics, it is the most fun. It is the most well-made fight in all of Destiny, and I wish that like the one phase, the baking strats, if those are like in the game, like you have to be extremely highly optimized to actually do them. It's not
Right.
just place a well down, you got 6 rockets, go for it, dude. Like I would like for that to be like, this is an extremely, like you have to have a well organized group.
Hmm.
Like you guys have to have your shit together, have to have a well organized group, not only just having the right weapons but having the timing down as well.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what a raid race is too. You know, having the right weapons, having the people that can perform the mechanics without dying. Um,
Right.
so getting more into the raid race coming out here in 2 weeks. Like, what are things that you're doing or will be doing to prepare for that? Because I know a lot of people some people don't really prepare for it that much. They just kind of, it's another day of gaming for them. Even teams that are the top teams and in clans, like it's just kind of like whatever, we're playing. I'm awake. Let's go. Is there anything special that you're planning on doing or have done that you're going to be doing this time?
Current focus is only looking for weapons. I'm still
Okay.
looking for specific god rolls of weapons that I think might be useful, or have potential of being useful based off of recent sandbox changes, things like that. So that's the current thing that I'm doing. I know a lot of people are doing bounty prepping and stuff like that for the artifact, but I really don't think that's going to be that big of an issue. I do think we're going to be able to reach the contest handicap, whatever it is,
Yeah.
within 4 days fairly easily. And I just think the artifact would just make that slightly easier.
Yeah. I was going to say, I
Um,
think the artifact's going to make it, because I'm assuming it's going to be a roughly around 20 below what recommended is. I think
right.
that's what it was for Crown. I don't really see them adjusting that much from there. I think the artifact
Yeah,
will make that a lot easier for us to get to.
I agree. I think it'll be pretty easy for us to obtain whatever the handicap level is, and that's the goal, right? The goal is to provide an even playing field,
Yeah.
an even fair playing field, so people that have to work can still contest on day one. People that are on the game grinding for 40 hours out of the whatever 72 hours that you have or whatever it is, right? 12 hours a day.
Hmm.
You want to make it fair and you want to make it competitive, um, because you don't want to only reward the people that are streaming just because they have more time to, or that's their job, or whatever the case is. You want to give everybody an equal opportunity to get that day one completion. Um, and I do think that's amazing for the contest modifier. I do think it's amazing for the day one. Um, So I'm not worried too much about prepping in that aspect as far as like saving bounties, and I will still do it. I'll do some of them, but I severely dislike playing Gambit. I just do not enjoy it.
Yeah, Gambit's not fun. I've done everything so far as bounties except for Gambit. And like I just can't do it. It's not fun unless you have a team of 4 right now. It just really isn't. Is there
Right.
is there anything like that you're looking for role specific that you haven't gotten yet?
Yes. So spare rations, good old spare rations. I got a pretty good PvP one, but I didn't even want to get one, but I figured I would in the process. I want a much better PvE role. I only got a subsistence rampage with okay other perks. I guess the barrel is okay, but the magazine, the masterwork is not good. I want a subsistence swashbuckler. I want rapid hit. I want a couple different variations of the spare rations, just because I do think that may or may not be the new go-to weapon,
That
without knowing what's coming out in Shadowkeep, of course.
It's interesting to me.
Um,
Like, do you think that if you got, say, you got whatever you consider a god roll spare actions to be, do you think that's actually something you would use in the new raid?
yes, yes, for sure. Specifically like subsistence swashbuckler. I do think that's something that I would thoroughly enjoy, especially with the adjustment to subsistence,
Mm-hmm.
because I do firmly believe that that is the best perk in that slot. I think it's better than Rapid Hit. I think it's better than Outlaw, better than 4 times the charm. Because just in case anybody doesn't know how it works, essentially, as long as you're consistently getting kills, you're constantly getting ammo back in your magazine
Mm-hmm.
from your reserves. So you can essentially have one clip and never run out of ammo as
Okay.
long as you are killing stuff. And if you get ×5 swashbuckler, it lasts for 5 seconds. So you have 5 seconds to refresh that swashbuckler. And at a ×5, you should be able to one tap most enemies. The only thing that we have to keep in mind is they are adjusting a lot of things, coming with hand cannons and coming with um, the precision modifiers or multipliers
Yeah.
for hand cannons. So we don't know how that's going to affect hand cannons in general. So because of everything, I want to have it just in case. But if it turns out that it's not as good, then I'll just throw it in the vault and not a big deal.
Yeah. The only reason I was asking because I know a lot of people will listen to this and be like, "Really, you're going to use spare rations and you're not going to use recluse?" But looking at just, I did briefly look at the TWAB before we started because I know you had brought it up in our whenever you're
Right.
pre-recording. We are getting a 30% buff on the I guess rank and file enemies with a hand cannon, but the precision damage we really don't know how it's going to affect because that's changing.
Right.
So I don't know if you paid attention because we were both watching the D1 play. In D1, um, kinetic weapons did about 30% more damage than what they do in D2. They're kind of bringing that more along the lines of what they did in D1, which is why a lot of people think that, hey, this hand cannon felt so good
Right.
in PvE because you did do more damage to the same enemies. Because I think it was actually Flesh that went back and he did the test on the same enemies in D1 and D2. So just say a Dreg, and the D1 same weapons did 30% less damage in D2. So it's kind of bringing them up to par what they would be, which makes, honestly, it makes the game feel a lot better whenever you can one tap and you can mow through, rank and file enemies, especially with a hand cannon. It's what feels the best in Destiny.
Right.
Going all the way back to Halo, it's kind of the Bungie thing. So that, especially with subsistence, whenever you bring that up, that actually makes a ton of sense. Not like it's not like blatantly in your face. It's like, why would you want that? You do, and I'm sure that you get a lot of questions. It's like, why spare rations? You don't play
Right.
PvP, and I think that's probably the best answer. You literally are gonna have a year 3 version if you get what you want. A year 3 version of Midnight Coup that you don't have to reload with Swashbuckler that is a stronger perk than 3 times Rampage.
And you can also put on a modifier or a mod.
Yeah.
Right. You can also put a mod on there, and you can put on minor spec. You can put on
And
major spec if you want.
and Swashbuckler ×5 you can proc from a melee.
Yeah. Um, so in my opinion, just like putting everything on the table and like comparing the numbers, like I said, analytical is one of the things that I like. It just makes more sense. You have something that, you have to kill 5 enemies to get up to ×5 to get the same multiplier. Or you can just melee an enemy,
Yeah.
which abilities count. So if you throwing knife an enemy, boom, there you go, ×5. Right? If you shoulder charge an enemy, there you go, boom, ×5.
And just
So
like
there's abilities that you can use to get you there quicker, and it lasts longer, and you don't have to waste a rampage spec to get it to 5 seconds, and then lose out on a minor spec or a major spec, which then will increase the damage by an extra 7.5% or whatever it is.
and
So
then
I mean, you're technically doing more damage with it. So
even more synergy. You could say you just got whatever a thrall or something. One tap him and then say your bottom tree Nova melee it, you get 5 times Swashbuckler and Devour procced.
mm-hmm.
And you just keep going and
Yep.
you're regenerating health, you're keeping Swashbuckler up, and you're reloading. So That's actually like super, super good synergy that I never even thought about until you just said that.
Yeah, and Devour is my favorite subclass in the entire game.
Oh,
I if I could run Devour at all times, I would. It's just so insanely good if you know how to proc it, just like you said. You get a melee, you get times 5, and you have Devour now, and then you just keep throwing grenades to keep refreshing from enemies, and on top of that, you're shooting enemies at the same time. It's so freaking good.
I wish that Devour tree, the only thing, like, because Devour is really fun, especially whenever there's just lots of enemies. It's really, really fun.
Hmm.
Um, I wish that there was some subtle changes they could do to Nova Bomb, because it does feel a little lackluster right now. It kind of
Well, they're increasing the damage. I
they
know
are
they're doing
increasing the damage. Um, so I hope that that helps it feel a little bit better. Because as a pure DPS standpoint, and I know it's getting a buff, but it just doesn't quite feel like it doesn't feel like it did in D1. I guess, you know, I don't know.
sure.
It's D2, so I shouldn't compare the two. Um,
Right.
outside of like in game, like how do you think you're gonna prepare for the raid race? Like, are you gonna change your sleeping patterns? Are you gonna sleep more? Are you gonna eat different? Are you gonna do anything else like differently than what you normally would?
I'm gonna game more. Honestly, yeah. Pretty much the opposite of what you just said. In pretty much every aspect, honestly. Because I'm still working right now in real life. I still have a part-time job.
Hmm.
I still work 3 days a week, and it's usually a 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. shift. So I still have to stay on a somewhat quote normal schedule, right?
A normie
Um,
schedule.
yeah, a normie schedule for the most part. So, I can stay up until like 3, 4 o'clock some nights, but like I work tomorrow. Tonight I need to go to bed at 1:30, 2 o'clock to make sure that I have enough sleep to get up in the morning tomorrow. So because of that, I can't grind as much as I would like to. And I'm taking off October and November to focus on the streaming and to focus on Shadowkeep and gaming and everything. So basically, everything that I've been doing is going out the window, and I'm just gaming until I fall asleep on my keyboard.
And I think that this
Uh,
actually kind of brings me into a topic that I wrote down and wanted to talk to you about because a lot of people see Chevy redeem partnered streamer, whatever. They probably
right.
assume that you're 22 years old and you live with your parents and you have no job, and that's very much so not the case. Can you tell me a little bit about like your career path outside of streaming? You don't have to get into details, but
Sure.
like just like where you are in your career path outside of streaming and like how you juggle, how you are able to live. I know you have worked full time. I know that you've been able to go to part time, but like tell me a little bit about it. Like what was Chevy like outside of streaming?
So Chevy outside of streaming is still Chevy. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a nickname I've had for I think about 18 years now, 20 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Chevy is actually the name that everybody calls me by. So I'm still Chevy in and out of gaming. My family even calls me it. I'm 30 and I do not live at home with my parents. I have not lived with my mom since I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
graduated at 17. So it's been 13 years since I've lived with my mother. Um, and I joined the military when I was in high school. I did 8 years of service. I did one tour in 2009 in Iraq. And everything pretty much from that aspect has been me on my own, basically working and just doing everything on my own there. So no basement for me, pretty much. Um, and I've been at my current job for almost 7 years, which I'm currently a mattress sales associate.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a store manager. I used to be a sales manager, but I stepped down to part time because of the whole streaming thing. And I'm trying to pursue this as my new career going forward. And that's what the next 2 months off is basically for, to focus on that and to see if I can comfortably or um, I guess I can do it without worrying type of thing. Because of course, streaming is one of those things that it's very inconsistent, and you could have a really good month, and then you could have a really bad month. But if
Yeah.
those 2 months even out and you're okay, then that's something that I might be able to manage with. But that's what the next 2 months is especially for. If I can grind and see what I do, in the next 2 months. And then if I'm able to, afford, my daily or my monthly expenses and daily expenses, I guess, um, then that's something I'll try to consider, and I'll try to keep doing in the future. Otherwise, I'll just stick to my 3 days a week, making X amount of dollars, and then having that as a side budget, I guess you could say, a
Yeah.
safety budget, if you will. Aside from that, I mean, I pretty much game, I work, and that's what I do for the most part. I'm past my partying stage, so I did that in my early 20s. When I got back, I had a buttload of money from Iraq, of course, and went out partying and did all of that. So I'll still go out and party. If you see me at the GCX 2020, you'll see me partying. If you saw me at Guardian Con last year or this last year here, I was definitely partying, but I'm not nearly what I used to. I'm much more chill, and I'm more focused on myself and my career at this point. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much that. I'm really just trying to focus on the whole gaming because I've thoroughly enjoyed playing Destiny 2 since I started playing it, and I'm coming up on close to 4,000 hours in Destiny 2.
Nice.
So I have a lot of time in this game, and I still have a long ways to go of where I want to be. So, and it's fun.
So a little
It's my
side
favorite.
note, we're gonna go kind of go back to like streaming and job. But a little side note, because this I don't think you know this about me, is I'm very close to you in age. I don't really ever tell anybody my age, but I'm very close to you in age. And
Oh,
something else that we have in common is I worked in mattress sales as a salesman and as a store manager for 3.5 years too.
oh, look at that.
That's something you didn't know.
Interesting.
But so pretty much your history replace your army experience. I was in college,
Right.
and then pretty much a lot of our history is kind of similar.
Sure.
Obviously, I did leave the mattress place and did work at a factory, and that's a whole nother story. But
Right.
that there's something we similar. I don't think I've ever told you that before.
No.
So that was I'm always interested. I always listen whenever you talk about the mattress store, because I like some people are like mattress store, mattress salesman,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, I know what it's like. I was doing that for 3.5 years, and
Mhm.
it
And,
was
a
it was
big thing with
interesting.
it a big thing with it is, I enjoy it not because of selling beds, not because of all of these different mattresses that are out there, not because of commissions or any of that. I enjoy it because it's a way that you can directly impact somebody's quality of life.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but it's ridiculous how important a mattress can be. It's absurd. It's a rectangle, right? 60 by 80, depending on the size, whatever. But that mattress can affect your life in many, many different ways. And that's kind of what I do is, I don't try to sell people. I inform them and I educate them on why sleep is important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part of the industry and the business that I thoroughly enjoy. And that's what I focus on when I'm helping people or when I'm explaining things to people. I'll flat out tell them, be like, I would love for you to spend $10,000 on a bed, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not my job, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it might make me a little bit of money. Yes, I would very much enjoy that. But if you just come in and say, I want that $10,000 bed, and I don't think it's the right one for you, I'm going to tell you that
Yeah.
because you're going to be upset at me because I didn't do my job. And ultimately, you're coming in because you have an issue, and let me help you with that issue, type of thing.
I know I really
Just
enjoy
come in and
seeing the people that they get a new bed, no matter where it's from, and then
right,
I've seen several people do it on Facebook and some people on Twitter, and they'll do like a little log of like how their sleep changes after they've gotten it.
yeah,
I think those are really interesting. Some good, most are good. Some bad ones too, but those are really interesting. You ever come across
right.
those? They're interesting reads from people that just do it by themselves. It's not like promoted by any kind of company or anything, but I always find those really interesting.
Right.
Um, aside from like streaming and your job, like, hmm, I know I was gonna ask you something else, but I had totally forgotten because we got on a tangent about mattresses again.
Of course. Of course.
Like, hmm. What was I gonna ask? I have no idea. Hmm.
Good old
Jesus,
mattresses.
Jesus Christ, mattresses. I started thinking about mattresses and totally forgot. GG's, Pete.
Well, next topic, and we'll come back to it.
Next topic was, well, TWAB and Vidoc, but like, what of the TWAB like changes? What do you think that you're actually most excited for? I know we have lots of weapons that are getting changed. Some are getting buffed. Most of these are buffs. I'm assuming we're probably going to get some nerfs in the next coming TWAB and on Thursday. But what weapon changes were you actually more excited for?
Well, it's honestly difficult to answer that because everything is getting changed by about the same.
Yeah.
So, like when this came out, we're talking with some of the boys, and one of the smartest players I know, one of the smartest guys I know in this game, Air, right, does a
Hmm.
lot of testing, does a lot of videos on this stuff, and he basically just said, so you're just buffing every single weapon by 25 to 36%. How does that change anything,
Yeah.
right? So that's not going to really change the meta right now. The only thing that will change it perhaps is like we talked about earlier, hand cannons not getting the precision damage that they used to on the minor enemies. So that could drastically change things. And now instead of a hand cannon, you might want to use an AR or something. I do really enjoy them looking at these weapons that we don't use ever anymore and increasing them and buffing them because that is very necessary. We need to make them more liable and we need to have more of a variety. So I did enjoy that. I'm very excited about the sniper rifles. Um, the sniper rifle's getting a massive buff. That's pretty awesome. 47% against minor, 20% for others. Um, I do not want submachine guns, specifically the recluse, to be the meta again.
I went on a
Um,
little tirade about the submachine gun thing last week whenever I saw it, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I love Recluse. It's a really fun gun to use, but it's like
right,
I want to be able to use other things. It's kind of like a certain thing about the sealed Ahamkara grasp. Like if I
right,
play a hunter, I want to be able to use what I want. I don't want to have to use those. Kind of like right now with Warlock. You're on a well, you're in Luna factions, you're a fucking liability. It's like I don't want to have to use Recluse every single time I go into an activity that's, what is it going to be? Like the master level Nightfall, which is going to be the highest one. I don't want to feel like I have to use that
right.
just because it is so much better than everything else. Like, can we change Recluse a little bit, please?
Yeah, that's all I want. And it sucks because I've made a couple tweets about stuff like this, and I come up with these ideas which I think are very logical ideas for PC, but then I forget that console players, Recluse is not nearly as good as it is on PC because of the controllability and because of the less recoil and just the weapon in general on PC handles differently than on console, which makes it more difficult. Um, I just think Recluse is just too good. It's not. It's almost a must-have if you want to compete on clearing or compete on some of these challenges that we're doing. Recluse is like a go-to. You have to have this type of thing. Um,
If
it
you
makes
could,
it substantially easier.
if you could make a change to Recluse and preferably a small change, like what would you, if like Bungie's like, hey Chevy, we like what you've done with Argos. What would you change to Recluse? We want to make this a little bit more tame. We want it still to be feel like a pinnacle weapon, but what would you change?
I would like for them to do increased precision damage instead of all damage, or maybe do like a minor increase to body damage and then a bigger increase to precision damage. So like 20% increase to body damage and 60% to precision damage or something
Hmm.
for the Master of Arms. Um, I don't think you should be able to proc it while using other weapons because you could just mountaintop into a group, kill an enemy, boom, there you go. You have a proc recluse. Or, you can use any other weapon. Or on the flip side, you can only proc it with a different weapon. So you have to kill something with your kinetic or your heavy weapon in order to proc the Master of Arms. I think that would be something that I would like to see as well. Either of those, really. Um,
Yeah, I'd thought about something similar where it's like you still get the same like 3 second like proc if you proc it from another weapon,
Sure.
but especially because this kind of fixes the thing in PvP too a little bit. Obviously, we'll fix the body shot damage because it's 147% buff right now. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
Increase the precision damage or change it to only precision damage increase. And if you keep the buff, like if Recluse buffs off of itself, make the Master of Arms timer extremely low. Like it has to be like a 1 second. So it's like it's meant for ad clearing. It's meant for clearing groups of ads, not running around with it in your pocket for 3 seconds in PvP.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I definitely think it needs something to be addressed. I think the precision damage would make it still liable, because it's meant for precision gamers, of course. I also think that yes, it's a pinnacle weapon, but it is really, really easy to get.
Yeah, it's not hard to get
I mean,
anymore at
it,
all.
it's
Well, it's never really
uh,
was.
I don't want to make it sound like any person can just fire up comp and get to 2100 in a day. It's not that easy. You do still have to try, but as far as requirements, getting to 2100 and that is it
Yeah,
is really easy to do.
yeah.
As opposed to Mountaintop, which they've recently nerfed to make it easier to obtain.
Even
Um,
even nerfed, it's 10 times harder than Recluse. Like Recluse is
yeah,
just get to 2100 and get some wins, and yeah, good job, dude.
yeah, pretty much. And I think it's too strong for how easy it is to obtain, and it's just too strong for the other alternatives. And it could just be because we don't have any other good weapons to replace it. I mean, that could be something.
Yeah.
So something I was kind of upset about in the recent TWAB here is I was really hoping to see some additional perks be messed with, specifically Dragonfly and explosive payload.
Hmm.
Because year one of Destiny 2, explosive payload was amazing
Yeah. No
for like
range
the
fall
first,
off. Yeah.
yeah, for like the first, I don't know, 6 months or something like that, right? And then they nerfed explosive payload, and Better Devils went in the vault, and Midnight Coup just basically took over, right?
Yeah.
So if they could nerf or not nerf, if they could adjust explosive payload, and if they could actually make Dragonfly like what I was watching on these year one or D1 raids today, actually make it like a Firefly, I think that would be a valid alternative to a Recluse, right? Because if I could get like a trust with Dragonfly Rampage and Dragonfly would actually explode
Hmm.
and kill things, I would rather use that trust with a hand cannon, precision aiming, as opposed to the Recluse.
Yeah.
Because I like the precision aiming. I like being rewarded for those precision shots. And the Recluse has basically made me a worse player. It's made my aim worse, and I don't like that.
I've gone from I don't really use Recluse unless it's an activity I absolutely have to now. Like it's just
Yeah,
unless I just want to be completely brainless and just run through stuff and point and click and not have to think about it. Like I've gone back to using my Kindled Orchid and a trust in that slot if I'm using something in that slot as a
sure.
primary. Like it just so I don't lose a little bit of that touch because I don't have a lot of it to begin with. Like I don't want to get used to just procking damage buffs off body shots.
Right.
The question that I forgot to ask you that left my mind a little bit ago
Sure.
was it's kind of in relation to streaming and working still. Do you have like any sort of ritual or anything you do like when it comes to streaming and your job? I know that like you have to kind of juggle them, and this may be even more so of whenever you still were working full time. Did you have a consistent schedule that you stuck to when you did it? And when you were in that schedule, did you have like an idea of what you're going to do for every stream? Were you going to do like, obviously, if it's a big thing like soloing an Argos or completing a challenge, that's going to be on your plate for a few days.
Right.
Do you have anything like set? Do you plan your streams out? Do you kind of know what you're going to do? Do you have talking points that you're going to talk about, or you just kind of go with the flow?
Go with the flow. Definitely go with the flow. I just kind of wing it for the most part. I try to always have an idea of what I want to do for that stream. But there's a lot of times where I kind of just, all right, I'm just clicking the button. I'll figure out what I want to do. Or I'll start off with one thing until I figure out what I want to do. Um, But that was one of my issues earlier on, and I got yelled at by Glad for it. He just told me, "Just click the damn button." He's like, "Doesn't matter what you're doing, just click the damn button." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna, click the button just to farm some frames or just to, do Menagerie or whatever, which, is boring. People don't wanna watch that." And then it's like, "You just gotta click the button, dude. People wanna hang out. People wanna game with you. Just click the button. You'll figure it out when you're streaming." I was like, "All right, fine, whatever." And ever since I started doing that, I was like, "Oh wow, people are actually hanging out. This is
So if
crazy."
you so say like that, maybe it's not like so close to. I know we're kind of in a low right now, but everybody's kind of getting ready for Shadowkeep to come up. Like, what would your like go-to thing be? Because I know you don't play PvP a lot, and that's a lot of what people do if they don't really have something to do. It's like, we'll just go play quick play for like 8 hours. Like,
Right.
what would your like go-to kind of thing be?
My go-to thing is Menagerie or Reckoning right now.
Okay,
Basically farming for god rolls. That's my
I got
go-to
you.
thing. Yeah. So I pretty much either want to try to get, a trust in Menagerie with Dragonfly Rampage and a roll that I want. Or this week is the sniper, which I still need a 4 times the charm and firing lane. Um so that's initially what I would be doing is one of those activities. Um I don't mind doing PvP. I don't enjoy it typically, but I don't mind doing it because I know other people like doing it.
Yeah.
Um, I do occasionally. I'll do the gamer day thing where I just try to game with as many people as I can, and people just join up. And usually we end up doing private matches with random loadouts because those are usually pretty enjoyable.
Mhm.
It really gives you an eye opener on how bad your vault is, and people typically do vault management after gamer day because they realize what the heck do I have this weapon in here for? This thing sucks. It's like, yeah, I'm deleting it. Um, Otherwise, I'm always down for raids. Usually, if I don't have things going on, but my go-to thing is usually I try to get challenges and things like that because those are the things that I really enjoy doing. Um, the only downside is I don't interact with chat as much, and that I don't enjoy. I like hanging out with people,
Yeah.
but generally, I don't really have a routine or a ritual, a schedule, anything like that. If I work, I'm more likely to schedule or to stream after work, which is like the evening time.
Hmm.
Um, and then days off are usually when I'm kind of more sporadic and I kind of just click the button when I'm ready or when something's going on. Um, but come October and November, when I don't have a job, I've set goals for myself and I want to stream for at least 250 hours
Just for that one month, or for both months combined?
for 1 month for October.
It's a lot.
Yeah, for Shadowkeep, I feel like that's definitely obtainable. And I feel like the first week alone should be a pretty easy 40 to 50 hours for just the first week alone, just because of all the content and all that good stuff. Plus day one raid, which means, we got to do multiple raids to figure out mechanics. And then we start doing low man challenges. And then, we might start doing speed runs, things of that nature. So,
I mean, yeah, you're looking at exactly 8 hours a day for 31 days. An
pretty much.
average. That's a hell of a lot of streaming, dude. Is
I
it?
expect day one to be a good like 20-hour stream.
Yeah.
For
Is there any kind of YouTube content you plan on putting out in that time, or are you just gonna try to strictly focus on streaming?
Another thing I've gotten yelled at for, yes, I'm actually gonna start uploading, videos, and, you'd be
Sorry.
surprised how much Glad, like, yells at me about this stuff. He's like, "Why don't you upload shit?" And, like, "You're doing stuff, just clip it and upload it. Like, it's not difficult." I'm like, "I don't know, I
I mean,
wanna
I did.
just don't."
I know, just advice that your other classmate Sweat. Whenever we did the podcast together, he's like, whenever it's really busy and there's a shit ton of content, I'm usually just clipping something, highlighting it from my stream, and uploading it to YouTube with a thumbnail.
Yep.
He's like, I don't really feel good about it because the quality isn't there, but he's like, I've got X amount of people that probably either don't watch me on Twitch or don't have the time to watch a live stream, and they can watch something from there that it took, I already made the content, I just have to edit it a little bit, which everybody knows if you've made a YouTube video, editing it is where all the time is.
Right.
um yeah, I'll look forward to watching more YouTube videos whenever I'm at work, because Twitch doesn't work at work for whatever reason.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I know how easy it is. It's really not difficult to just clip it, make a highlight, and then if you have to, go edit it. Otherwise, just upload it to YouTube and you're done. And that's kind of what I did. I actually reached out to Sweat and I was like, "Hey, can you make me like a YouTube over or a YouTube thumbnail template so I
Hmm.
can just like insert a picture and then put my text in there and then like do my own thing
Yeah.
so I don't have to like bother him because that's ultimately what I would like to do is just do real quick things like Glad does it all the time. I know Sweat does it all the time, and I'm not necessarily making it a full on career like Dado or Air or back in the day Indica was doing a lot of daily uploads, and
Yeah.
I'm not quite looking to go that extreme. I mean, eventually, if it grows to that point, then heck yeah, I'll put the time and the effort into it. But right now, I just want to focus on the stream. And then as I have stuff, I'm just going to throw it on YouTube because why not?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's another avenue that people can find you or interact with you and your
Mhm.
content.
Right.
Funny that you say that about Sweat because after I did the podcast with him, he actually made a template for my YouTube videos.
Yeah. He does it so quickly and it's
Yeah, I
just,
sat there and watched him do it. He did it on a Discord thing with me.
yeah. Yeah.
It was
He's
like
like, if you
five
ever want to learn
minutes.
anything, just let me know and we'll just hop in a Discord and I'll show you some things. And
Yeah, it was really
I'm like,
cool.
dude, this template is more than enough. This is all I need.
Yeah, he sat there and
And I'll
made it in
just
like
tweak with
5 minutes for
anything.
me. Anything else you want?
Yeah. I was
like,
like, what the heck?
I mean, you told him like, wait, came on my podcast and made me a thumbnail template. I'm good, dude. Like,
Right.
um, aside that, we are coming close to an hour. Aside from, we'll kind of leave the raid out of it for a sec. I know the Vidoc was released. I've just skimmed over it like once or twice.
Hmm.
Um, even if it doesn't have anything to do with that, what are you looking forward to most in Shadowkeep coming out?
Well, first, I want them to stop showing us stuff. Please. Please stop showing us stuff. I was a little salty when they actually showed us a decent part of the dungeon.
Yeah, they did show a pretty
Um,
good, decent
I
part
was
of that.
actually a little salty when they told us there was a dungeon.
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying to build the excitement up so much that they're leaving out the surprise factor. Unless there's some crazy stuff that we don't know about yet,
Yeah, I was gonna say
which would
maybe
be
they're
awesome.
like they're showing us this stuff, and there's like, hey, you never know. In a month down the road, you might stumble across this thing that is a dungeon that we didn't show you or didn't tell you we had. Like,
Oh, I freaking hope so because they're showing us a lot of stuff right now, and it's just like, all right, well, I would like to see the stuff on my own, but that's fine. But I mean, obviously the raid is the go-to excited thing, right?
hmm
Super excited for the raid itself, which is challenges, speed runs, all of that good stuff. Um, I just looked at all of the seasonal rank up rewards,
hmm
and it looks like there's going to be some pretty awesome stuff on there as well. Um, the content is what I'm excited for. Content. I get to do extra stuff. These nightmares sound pretty awesome as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for the nightmares because that seems like it's going to be something that's actually difficult. I want content that is actually going to be difficult is what I want.
That yes. 'Cause sometimes it does get a little stale if you've done it a
Yeah.
bunch.
Yeah.
Talking about the
So
nightmares, I just looking at the Vidoc, I was just now thinking about this because it seems like the wanted enemies were kind of you know how they've kind of gone through and let's like Ava's recipe list was kind of like the precursor to the menagerie like chest like
mhm.
to where you can make your own thing. I'm wondering if they did the same thing with the wanted enemies, and the nightmares are going to be kind of similar to that, but the way that they kind of talked about it in the Vidoc made it seem like these things can come out anywhere.
Kind of sounded that way.
It's like you could just be doing a patrol, obviously a nightfall, a strike, anything, and it's like, hey, there's a nightmare right there. Like this shit's,
No.
Eris is crazy, but she is right. These things come out of nowhere. Like how like nuts would it be if we actually had a nightmare just pop up in the middle of a raid?
That would be pretty crazy. Yeah, just middle of a raid, all some boom, have Nightmare Crota spawn or something. Then you got to try
People would
and
be
take
pretty
down
pissed
Nightmare
off if
Crota.
that happened day one, though.
Oh yeah, for
Because that'd be
sure.
an RNG thing. It'd be like, we didn't get it right. We didn't get it because of this. Hopefully, so if it's in the raids, hopefully it isn't active. The first time you do the raid or something
All
like
right.
that.
Hopefully not, because that might be a bit of a yikes. But that would be cool if it's like I would say non-raid activities. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
But I guess the big thing I would say is same thing with the wanted enemies that you gotta have to have a reason to kill them.
Yeah, there's not other than you kill them once and you get the triumph. It's like, yeah, just
Yeah,
go away, dude. Like, leave me
yeah.
alone. They
I
don't
remember I
even
remember the
bother
first
you.
time these wanted enemies were around, I was like, "Oh, dude, these guys are sick. They're freaking strong. Like, let's bake them." And all of a sudden, you're like, "All right, I got a blue," and like they don't have loot to associate with it, and
Yeah.
it's like they're just there to be a nuisance or a triumph thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, so if they're there, I hope that they're actually there for a reason.
Yeah, if they could take something, a page from say Borderlands book, like they have these nightmares, and these nightmares have the chance to pop up in X, Y, and Z activities, and they only drop this one legendary. And it's like it may be close to a guaranteed time, like 50% chance that you get a guaranteed legendary to drop. But say it's like a really freaking good hand cannon, and it's like, oh shit, let's go kill him. I don't have my
Yeah,
god roll yet. Doesn't matter what activity is, we're stopping because I want that god roll. Like that
exactly.
that would be really cool. How Now how long do you think the raid is gonna take to finish? And how long would you like for it to take? Like assuming that you guys actually get worlds first. Like what would you like want it to take and what would you like it to take?
Think 6 to 8 hours, want 10 to 12. I think it's gonna be a raid that's closer to Spire of Stars as far as completion time,
Mm-hmm.
and I want it to be something that's not as long as Last Wish, which Last Wish was honestly only so long because half of the time was spent in Vault trying to figure that out,
Yeah.
which is basically just us as a community thinking too hard or overlooking specific things to. I mean, looking back at it now, it's actually pretty easy, right?
That I
Um,
think I talked about this yesterday, and I think the way that Bungie went about naming the things kind of made everybody overlook stuff because everybody started looking for the shadows and shit.
right.
And it's kind of
Yeah.
like everybody's searching Penumbra and Entumbra, like what do they mean? Oh, it's a kind of
Uh-huh.
partially in a shadow. So everybody's looking at shadows. There's the little walls that move around the room every single time that you activate a plate and you slam a plate. Like it's kind of like they do kind of have a meaning once we finally look at it. I believe it. I don't remember if it was Rowan. Somebody from math class actually ended up figuring out like how everything actually worked, and it kind of does make sense. But like still, I don't know if it was just hidden too well or if it was just it kind of just wasn't it wasn't implemented greatly. Like I don't know, something about it still. I don't know. I wish that activity would have been figured out, like actually how to do it, and it would have been a little bit faster. But like, hey, we wouldn't have had the 19-hour raid race and the 2402 meme. It wouldn't have
Well, we know how
happened.
it's supposed to be done now.
You
You're
just
basically
stand on the
uh,
plates the whole time, right?
well, the Penumbra buff, having a so each of the plates are cursed, right? So you have to
Yeah.
cleanse them essentially,
Mhm.
and by applying either Penumbra or Entumbra, it rotates the symbols on your plate.
Mhm.
So the goal is to have your middle symbol match up with one of the other two plates, and then the other plates matching up with each other as well, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a matching symbol on the left, you know it's penumbra. So
Mhm.
if you cleanse that plate with the penumbra, then it actually rotates it to the middle,
Okay.
is what happens. So it'll actually show you that it's in the middle now. Um,
That's what I was kind of getting at with staying on the plates. If people stayed on plates, you'd actually see that happen.
right,
And that's something that nobody really did day one. If you saw, I think that if somebody did, I didn't see it. I didn't see
right.
anybody try that.
Most people, well, what we did at least is we took screenshots, we put it into Discord, and then we had one person, which was Frank, for our day one squad. He would basically put them all on top of each other.
Uh
So
huh.
he'd put, the left one up top, he'd put the middle one in the middle, and he'd put the right one on the bottom. So I saw that there was a very consistent pattern of having two of them are always matching either on the left or on the right. And we saw that every single time there was a very consistent pattern. Either two were matching on the left or two were matching on the right. And it was every single time, but I could not figure out why or what that meant.
Yeah.
Right. And I was never a runner, right? So I never saw that there was buffs on these on
Never
the
saw them
balls.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, so because of that, I never saw that you got a penumbra or you got an entumbra buff. So all we knew is the plates are different, and I was just like, dude, I don't know. I just know they're different. And I never knew the penumbra and entumbra thing, so I never was able to put that together. And then eventually, once we found out it was done and we figured out, or not, we didn't figure it out, but we got it from gigs actually on how to complete it is who we heard by.
Yeah.
That gigs figured it out, and we read it, and I was like, oh my god, that was a missing piece of the puzzle that I had no idea about.
I remember
Um,
sitting there watching that like watching your team, the other Redeem team, Gigs, and Dado, and I think a B Bold
mhm,
team, like watching them get it, and like Ninja was already there,
yep, because
and
he guessed it.
nobody knew, nobody knew how he got there, and he didn't know. Nobody on their team knew, and I'm just like everybody's kind of like collective like sigh whenever like it was actually figured out, because I think Gigs figured it out, but Dado was the one that was explaining it, and
Yeah,
he was the
yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
person that I had actually
Yep,
heard like vocalize how it worked, and everybody's just like, oh my, like, are you kidding me? Like,
yep,
we were so close to hold, and it wasn't like a, oh shit, that's it. It's kind of like, are you kidding me?
yeah.
Really?
It
All
was,
right, let's go to the final fight.
I was just like, "You've gotta be kidding me." That was actually quite easy,
Yeah.
and I was pretty disappointed that I couldn't put that together, because we did the whole shadow thing. We did the, "Look at these, there's 2 of the shields on here, there's 3 over there, there's more of a shadow." We did all of this, and I was like, "Dude, there's no way. It's something with the symbols. It's gotta be with the symbol."
Yeah.
Um, and then once he said that, or he put it on Reddit, and I was like, "Oh my god, I get it now." Um, yeah. So I don't think it's gonna be like that. I think that was more of us overthinking it and just not figuring it out, which is why that partial part of the reason why it took so long. So I really don't think it's gonna be a 17-hour raid.
I hope not. So,
Not to mention they said it's not gonna be as big as Last Wish. They said it's not gonna be as big as Forsaken.
yeah, and
Um,
I would expect, because it's they're saying it's a Rise of Iron style, size. So it's still a pretty decent size expansion. So,
right.
and if they go by that, 3.5 actual encounters, 4 encounters, like actual encounters. I'm not counting like a jumping puzzle or a sparrow race or anything as an
Right.
encounter. So that would be really nice, and that lasting, 6 to 12 hours, hopefully. If it's less than that, I'll be disappointed. If it's more than that, I probably won't be disappointed. I'm actually pretty happy.
I'll be really happy if it's more than that, but
You'll be
I'm
tired as
realistically
fuck,
thinking
but
6 to 8, yeah. Um, I'm also very happy that they moved it to a Saturday,
that is
and they
nice.
moved it after day 1,
Hmm.
as, that was a big mistake, I think.
So we're a little
Um,
bit over an hour. So the last question I'll have for you today, um, where do you see yourself, your streaming, your Destiny 2 career in a year from now? Like, say we sit down and do this podcast, where would you want to be?
I would very much so like to have 2 worlds first this year,
Mm-hmm.
because I still do not have an actual world's first. Me, Fammy, Frank, and the squad, we got world's first prestige Eater of Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't count that as an actual world's first,
Did you
right?
guys?
Yeah.
Do you guys not get a belt for that one?
No, no, nobody counts that as an actual world's
I didn't
first.
know if you did for the prestiges or not. I can
Yeah,
remember.
no, not for that. Prestige Leviathan, I think they did. I don't remember actually. But I would very much like to get 2 worlds first this year. Assuming there's 4 raids, I think 2 out of 4 is definitely something we're very capable of doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to get 4 out of 4, of course, but um, I would like to at least get 2. Um, I would like to complete some of the more difficult challenges again. So I'd like to have just more things on the challenge resume, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I just want a game when it comes to that stuff. As far as where do I want to be? I want to be able to stream without having to rely on a part-time job or anything like that. So I want to actually be a full-time streamer type of thing. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Um, I'm very excited for GCX because meeting people I think is very amazing. And
Yeah.
meeting everybody last year at GuardianCon was a lot of fun. So pretty much, I just want to be in a spot where I can stream full time and do my thing and just have fun. and obtain more challenges and world's first and things like that. Um, Basically improve my quote gaming resume, I guess.
Yeah.
And not that that's a real thing or anything, but
It's a real thing. It's 2019. It's an actual thing now. It's
all
an
right.
actual thing.
So I'd like that, and then like I said, stream full time is definitely something I would very much like to do. And perhaps start YouTube. Like I said, it's not something that I'm looking for. It's not something I'm actively considering or expecting, but if it gets to a point where, hey, I should actually start to focus on it, I would
I'm gonna
I
start
would look
sending
to
you
do that as well.
messages and reminding you to upload to
Right? Well, if we get this 720 two-man gall run, holy crap, that's definitely going up on YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. That's a nightmare.
I didn't get him. I saw you guys are doing it. I didn't get a chance. I only got about like 3 or 4 minutes to watch before the
It's a
stream
nightmare.
was cutting in and out for me.
Not good. Not good at all. 7.5 hours, we didn't make it to DPS once as 720.
Man, that
But we
is
know it's too
tough.
feasible. We know it's too feasible, but we got to get to DPS.
All right. Well, thanks for joining the podcast, Chevy, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.